Hey guys, today we're going to be driving around Pittsburg, California by setting random waypoints and seeing how the FSD Beta version 8.2 handles it. I feel like this video has a good amount of complicated scenarios and unprotected turns, which were a pretty good challenge for the beta. I really wanted to wait for version 8.3 before I did my first video with commentary and the new overlay, but oh well. Okay, after a couple of unsuccessful attempts to turn on FSD, we are finally able to turn it on, and then we have an immediate right-hand turn. Autopilot did an excellent job creeping forward for visibility and for waiting for the Mustang and then proceeding at the correct time. It felt very confident through this entire maneuver. I feel like we've seen some pretty major improvements in creeping behavior since Beta 8 originally came out, but sometimes it still does creep a little too far forward for my liking, and it's hard for me to tell when the car is just trying to gain visibility or when it's actually starting to proceed. Hopefully we'll see some improvements to this soon. So I slowed this part down because as much as we still hear complaints about the path planning being bad, it is another thing that I feel has improved a lot since earlier versions of the beta. Earlier versions had a real hard time with parked cars sticking out over lane lines, but it handled that little section very easily. Didn't slow down at all and felt pretty natural. Doesn't handle this next section quite as well though. So we are in a left-hand turn lane that also goes straight. Autopilot correctly stays in the lane that it started in, going left, but this is actually a left-hand only turn lane to go back onto the freeway. So we didn't need to be here, and actually I did not want to be in the intersection when that light turned red, so I did have a disengagement here to clear the intersection for the other cars. Also got pretty lucky here that there was somebody who gave us plenty of room, so Autopilot had no problem making this lane change. The guy in front of us then decides that he does not want to be in this lane anymore, slams on the brakes before he enters the intersection. I don't know what that was about, honestly, but yeah, Autopilot handled it pretty well. Now we are going to be heading into the parking lot. Honestly, I don't drive with Autopilot in parking lots very often. It feels a bit too nervous, but I figured I'd let it drive as far as it could through here to see what happens. I'm also going to give you that wide view up top to give you more context. I also put in a new destination in the nav because we were coming to the end of ours. Kind of cool. You can actually see Autopilot searching for a route right there. It didn't like any of the projected paths, so it just continues forward. Also interesting that it detects this car is kind of stopped for a while because it wasn't moving and then plans a path around it. I think it's very interesting seeing on Autopilots in moments like this. It ends up not doing it, but us humans, we take it for granted when we know when to pass or not. For a computer, knowing when to pass a stopped vehicle must be pretty tough. Also stops for these pedestrians. This was nice. Probably moved towards them a little bit too quickly, but stopped in plenty of time and gave them plenty of room. So overall, a really good job actually through this parking lot, rather surprisingly. Also, I assure you that the honk you heard was not for me. Somebody behind me was honking at their friend or something. So I know I've been honked at before, but not yet today. Autopilot stopping a little bit early here for this stop sign ahead. Does make a secondary stop. It actually turns left to clear this curb, but I didn't think it was I didn't think it was enough. I looked in my side view mirror as this happened, and it actually was plenty of room, but I've had Autopilot clip a curb before, and I'm extra cautious, so that was another disengagement, probably my fault. Another unprotected right, and then we also do have a left-hand turn coming up, so it's going to have to get across these lanes of traffic. I know there's a lot going on these visualizations. If you have a better idea on how to do this, please let me know. Except I can't make them line up. So many of you have said that. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I've tried. Maybe I'll get a drone or something in the future and try to film it that way. I have no idea, but I can't do it. So please quit telling me. Another very nice right-hand turn by autopilot, chooses a great moment to go. Also makes the left-hand lane change immediately after making the turn for the upcoming left-hand turn. So great. I'm also cutting the footage through these red lights just because I don't want this video to be super, super long. These red lights were like extremely long for some reason. Coming up here, I put the full self-driving beta in a bit of an unfair situation. Basically, the navigation route goes into a gated community, and when I realized this, I changed the nav route to somewhere else, but we were already in a left-hand only turn lane. So, yeah, let's see how autopilot handles this one. Looks like the planned path immediately changes as soon as we get that new nav route in there. So I've said in the past that I think it should just take the turn whenever it's in one of these lanes, but in this instance I'm kind of glad that it didn't, because there's no way to turn around to the left like you might have seen over there. I mean, the only thing I wish it would have done is signal, but other than that it did perfect, like at deciding when to go and doing everything pretty safely. Like it did a really nice job, I think. I mean, for the situation I put it in. And coming up, we have a right-hand turn at a red light, which is legal in California. I've seen many comments asking some questions about this. Autopilot sees traffic stopped, decides to make its move, and then stops as soon as it sees that car to the left start going through the intersection. So I thought it handled this one wonderfully, stopped plenty far back, and felt, really good. Sometimes you just get unlucky with the timing, which is what happened here. Like a second earlier or a second later, it would have been obvious what to do, but autopilot kind of got caught out, but made the right decision to stop and just waits for a big gap like you just saw. So, nice. Navigation is ending again up ahead, coming into another little neighborhood. So I was almost about to cancel it, but I decided that would have been probably like a bad move while it was in the middle of making a maneuver. So I just let it kind of get more towards the end of the destination before I picked out a new random spot. I just love how clearly it maps everything. I don't know. I don't think places like this are mapped out. I honestly think this is all just vision and neural networks kind of predicting what it looks like, but it's so close to reality. It's really crazy. If you haven't seen my magic behind FSD visualizations, please check that video out. Alright, coming up is a blind, unprotected left turn across 4 lanes of traffic, so much more difficult than the right turns it's been doing so well at today. Also spots this pedestrian out very early, stops plenty far back from the stop sign to give him a lot of room to pass, starts creeping forward even as traffic is moving, so pretty nice so far. It still obviously cannot see on both sides, so it has to creep a little bit more. Thinks it sees a gap big enough to go and goes for it, and then immediately starts slowing because it continues to see traffic coming from the right. Then after this final car goes, it proceeds through to the intersection. So while no means was this perfect, I think it was rather good. I actually do like this layout of the visualizations where it's taking up a little bit more than half the screen, because you can kind of see traffic spawn in from super far ahead. Otherwise that's really hard to see, but I think it's so interesting which cars it chooses to render sometimes and which cars it chooses to ignore. You'll see kind of like when we're stopped at this stoplight, it's not rendering any of the cars to the left. It obviously sees them. Like, we've seen the cameras can pick up a lot, but it's not displaying them until it thinks they're relevant. So just kind of interesting overall, I think. Okay, gotta make a left-hand turn through this traffic to get to the end of our nav route. Autopilot stops really far back, turning left here. I don't think it was because it saw that truck, but I mean, it turned out okay. Also starts to make the maneuver and has a really hard time when this truck starts creeping up. It continues to go, so that was good, but it had a little bit of a tough time with that forward progress. And it was about at this moment I realized that we are in the same spot that we started at. Oh my gosh. So much for choosing a random point on the map, huh? I didn't notice this when I was in the car, but look at that planned path. Man, Autopilot thinks it can pull some crazy maneuvers right now. New navigation point set, which makes us do an unprotected left out of this parking lot. I did not want to go right again. Also, check out how close this van to the right gets to curbing his wheels. Oh man, that was close. Okay, creeping forward so we can get some visibility. Looks like we got a nice gap to the left with no cars, but it's hard to see from the right. Autopilot actually still goes for it. So I wonder what would have happened if there was a car there, if it would have just slammed on the brakes or what. Like, it didn't happen. It was perfectly safe and everything, but yeah, would have been interesting if there was a car there. And just love seeing how early it's picking up all these cars ahead. Up here we have a rather interesting situation where we have a car turning left out of our lane that we started in. It's kind of sideways right here, and Autopilot has a real hard time dealing with it. It's fully out of the lane now, but you can see it goes back and forth from tracking it as a car it should like control for or not control for. I forgot to hit the snapshot button, but looking back, I definitely should have for a situation like that. I wanted to show you this and mention, I think the path planning is actually starting to get pretty good in some places. Like right here, we're turning right and the lines kind of disappear a little bit, and Autopilot has to kind of like hunt for where the next lines are. But it does a really nice job, pretty smooth. And like I've said previously, I just think that's going to get better and better with every firmware update until the steering wheel gets really smoothed out. Big shout out to those of you who are still here watching the video. You guys really are making the channel what it is. Thank you so much for your suggestions and telling me the things that you like and you don't like. Please keep them coming so that I can make the kind of content that you guys would like to see. And thanks again, like for real. This has been amazing and so much fun. Alright, we have a right-hand turn into this neighborhood to get to the end of our navigation route, and oh no, it is the police. Oh, please, Autopilot, don't do anything crazy. I probably would have given him slightly more room, but hey, I think that cop has zero idea that a robot was behind the wheel of this car. And shortly after this, unfortunately, one of my GoPro batteries died, the interior cabin one, and the extra batteries I brought ended up also being dead, so this was the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and a massive thank you to the people you see here who make making content like this possible. Thank you so much, you guys, and thank you for watching. Bye.